false countdown from the home crowd. Hawkins carving it out into space, looking for Brock, way up into the air. Hebold grabs the disc and gets both feet down over Gutowski. That is a big score with the legend fired up for his team.
What a play by Cameron Brock. High pointing that disc over Anthony Gutowski, somebody that in his own right is great in the air. This is why this guy is the all-time leader in UFA history for goals scored, with a record that will probably never be passed. And what a catch. And the mind to get his feet in the end zone as well. Jumping from outside the end zone into the end zone, putting up a score with 0.7 seconds left.
Welcome back. We've got a special breaking news edition of Swing Pass here today for you. I'm Adam Ruffner. That is Cameron Brock. And the league's all-time leading goal scorer will be leaving the Indianapolis AlleyCats after 12 seasons. That's right. My co-host, Cameron Brock, will be heading to the Atlanta Hustle for the 2025 season. I've got enough time talking on this podcast and its history. I want to kick it over to Cam immediately to get his reaction to this monumental signing and just a few thoughts on your new team. Cam, congratulations on the signing. I'm sure you're thrilled to be joining a contender in Atlanta, but what's the scoop, man?
Well, I'm really excited too. I mean, it's hard to put into words, this has been in the works now since November, like early November. So this has been something that's been kind of going on behind the scenes. We've kept it pretty hush hush. Although apparently someone scooped it, because I did see it pop up on the rumor mill from somebody, whoever anonymously put that tip in. I have always had a lot of respect for Atlanta. We've played them 4 times since I've been with the AlleyCats, so I have some experience playing against some of those players, and some of those players I've played against all 4 times, and always have admired just like the culture that they seem to have from the outside. I have spent a lot of time over the years texting back and forth with Matt Smith, who of course is hustle legend and leads that team in goals scored, wearing a hustle jersey, and has just been a really great competitor in the leagues. He was a guy who was in there in 2012 playing for the Rhode Island Rampage. And so I've met some players over the years, had some great conversations, really have a lot of respect for what, Miranda did when she was coaching down there, for what Tuba's been doing. All I hear are positives from people who are like in Atlanta about the team culture, the work ethic. And, this is a team who's had one of the top offenses. You could make an argument for the top offense in the league for a couple of years in a row now. They've been a team who has won their regular season division title for the last 2 years. And they've 3 out of the last 4 years, they've been a single point away from going to championship weekend. So they obviously haven't gotten over the hump yet, but I'm hoping that this is the year. And I just, I want to come in and be a part of that team. And I want to be a part of the success story that I think we're going to have in Atlanta this year. So I'm really excited. I'm thankful to the Hustle organization for, recruiting me and speaking with me and trying to bring me in. And, I guess I'll quote former teammate Xavier Payne. It's nice to be wanted. I mean, it is nice to be wanted. And not that obviously I haven't been wanted, in Indy, but this is the first time a team outside of Indy has really, approached me with any sort of real emphasis and wanted to bring me in. And, I think in most years before this, I probably would have said no. But I was ready to say yes this year. So it seems like everything just kind of fell into place when it needed to.
Congratulations again, man. I'm sure it's just kind of been a wild ride. You mentioned the bit of leaking. I mean, with news this big, you can't really blame people for not being able to sit on it for what's been, I feel like, almost 8 weeks at this point of rumors and scuttlebutt just sort of going up and down the grapevine of the league and all of its background noise. But you mentioned the initial touch point and how Atlanta was really kind of pursuing you this offseason. Can you give a little bit more intimation around what that initial approach was like? Was it just simply a text out of the blue? Was it one of the former AlleyCats players who have wound up in the Atlanta organization reaching out to you? How exactly did this ball get rolling?
Yeah, I mean, I did get a text out of the blue from Tuba. I'm assuming he got my number from Matt Smith or
Tuba going fishing?
Yeah, for real. He was casting his line out there, and he just asked about a conversation, and so I was like, "Yeah, let's talk." And when we did talk, we talked for almost an hour, just kind of going through like why he's reaching out to me, what he envisions I can bring to the team. He kind of asked me about, what I thought I could bring to the team, and what I felt like my job would be if I was to join the Hustle. And I straight up told him, I was like, look, if I play for you all, my goal is not to come in and score 50 goals, lead the league in goals, and like make this about me. Like if I'm coming to join the Hustle, it's because I want to win games. And I straight up told him, I was like, if that means that I score 35, 40, 50 goals, awesome. If that means by the end of the season I've only scored 10 goals, but we're division, right? We're hosting the division championship game in Atlanta, then I feel like I did my job. And that's really what it's about for me. It's about winning. If I wanted to score 50 or 60 goals, I would probably just stay here in Indy. Like, to be honest, like I obviously have had a long string of success of scoring lots of goals. And I've done that all with this one team. And obviously, I'm not in Indy. Like we definitely have, there's definitely talent here in Indy. There's guys here who are good Frisbee players and good athletes, but I'm not competing here in Indy with Brett Holzmeyer and Jeremy Langdon and some of these other guys for like catches in the end zone, right? Like it's a lot more youth. It tends to be a little bit more spread out here in Indy, but generally speaking, yeah, I put up a lot of stats here, and stats are fun. It's one of the fun things about sports, right? Like if you are a sports fan at all, then you have stats conversations, like, and we all have our stats that we have memorized of like our favorite players. I still know that Tracy McGrady and Grant Hill were the top scoring duo in the NBA in their first year in Orlando before Grant Hill got hurt. Like, and I know they were averaging combined almost 60 points a game, like stuff like that. So they're fun, but like winning is the number one stat. If I end the season with 10 goals, but we also end the regular season with like 10, 11, 12 wins, that's a successful season. Like that's what it's about. It's about the win. It's about the dubs. So my hope is that I can come in and just contribute to winning, whatever that looks like, whatever my role ends up being on the team. However I'm used, like it's about winning. So that's my goal. I'm excited to get there for training camp. First training camp that will be in like third week of February, and it can't get here soon enough. I'm also excited that my training camps are going to be in like 50 or 60 degree weather instead of like 20 degree weather. So that is an added bonus to playing in Atlanta. I don't have to worry about 20 degrees and 20 mile per hour winds in our first training camp of the season. So there's just a little perk, to throw on top of the fact that I get to go play with I think a group of guys who works really hard, a group of guys who really care and are really invested in the Hustle's success. And I think a group of guys that are really hungry. They've worked really hard to try to get to championship weekend, and they seemingly have taken all the right steps over several seasons and just have not been able to get over the hump. And I mean, quite literally, one goal has separated them from championship weekend 3 out of 4 seasons. So like when you look at it that way, it's like this team, you could not be more on the cusp than the Hustle have been. So Tuba said like he thought I could be a missing piece, like something that puts them over the edge. And I know I know if we get over the hump, it's not going to be because of me. Like it's not going to be Cam the savior, anything like that.
All right. I've listened enough to you being Mr. Humble here and talking about team stuff. I was ready to talk once you were trying to show everyone your hoop knowledge with Tracy McGrady and Grant Hill stats, which like half our viewership probably doesn't even know because they weren't born yet. I wanted to get to your personal accolades because I know you're somebody who always talks team first, and you know what you should be speaking towards as the kind of caliber of pro you are and locker room presence and everything. But man, just point blank, you've got probably one of the 3 most impressive resumes this league has ever seen, if not number one, in terms of pure counting stats and numbers that we can maybe reference as far as league fans, aficionados of the sport, whatever else. So obviously, first and foremost, you are the league's all-time leading goal scorer with 644 career goals. You are 252 goals ahead of number 2 Benyat, who has a very impressive 392 career goals of his own. If you were to take that 252 number and just make it its own imaginary player, it would rank 7th all time in UFA history in goals scored and be currently tied with Travis Dunn. So your theoretical gap player that you have distanced from the rest of the bulk of UFA players in history would be 7th all time, just a derivative of what you've accomplished in this league. You're a 3-time league leader in goals in a given season in 2013, 14, and in 2022. You have the longest gap between years. I think that's pretty obvious between the 2014 and 2022. Also, no other player has ever led in goal scoring more than a single season aside from you. So hats off there.
Did not know that.
You've got 7 seasons with 50 or more goals. The second highest number is 4 such occasions, and that's by Benyat, again, number 2 all time. So you've almost doubled number 2 there. You had 45 straight starts that we know of because we don't have game-by-game data going back to the 2012 and 2013 seasons. But you had 45 straight starts from the beginning of the 2014 season through the first 2 games of the 2017 season where you scored a goal. You have 44 games in your career since 2014 with 5 or more goals. You have 4 games with 0 goals during the same stretch. So you have a 10-to-1 better chance of scoring 5 or more goals in a game than you have of being scoreless. You currently rank 7th all time in goals per game at 4.08. And honestly, that really doesn't do credence to how impressive that number is because you're the only player in the top 30 among all players ever to have played a game in goals per game averages who has more than 100 career games played. 31 is, again, Benyat. He's kind of on your heels in a few of these. And heels is relative, right? Like, he's a ways off, no matter how impressive Benyat's 2-time MVP career has been. Mm-hmm. And among players with 50-plus games played, you are 2nd all-time in goals per game. Number 1 is Quinton Bonad of Montreal Royale.
Makes sense.
I think that's all that I have from what I could pull right now. You're also the league's all-time leader in games played at 158 career games and in total scores at 937. And again, depending on how Atlanta uses, you could be the first player ever to reach the the 1,000 score club in league history if you can get to that 63 number this season. Then that's goals plus assists is how we calculate scores.
Sure.
But I just had to run through that. I know you would be the last person to really talk about these sorts of accolades, but it just gives a glimpse into, I think, the kinds of production you are capable of in this sport and in this league and how long you've been doing this. Again, this will be your 13th year coming up in 2025. And you're now slated to join, as you've kind of mentioned a few times, an Atlanta offense that not only has been one of the best of past few seasons, in 2024, it was the best offense. They had the most efficient offense in the league. The Hustle did. They converted on nearly 63% of their possessions. And in addition to that, they were number 1 in hold rate. And that means that the Hustle, in addition to being phenomenally efficient just as scorers, they were one of the best units in playing O-line defense should they commit a turnover. The hold rate was above 74% in 2024, and that's why you've mentioned that Atlanta has won the past 2 regular season division titles in the South. But, and this comes with a big but, they've been denied in the playoffs in heartbreaking fashion in 3 of the past 4 seasons, including each of the past 2 at home in Atlanta. And that's definitely something that you've been brought on board to change, hopefully elevating the team up to that next level. You mentioned some of the players are going to be playing alongside in Brett Hallsmeyer, Austin Draco Taylor, Hayden Austin Nab, Jeremy Langdon, Christian Olsen, Carl Eckwitzel, 2024 Callahan winner, Aiden Downey. They used him a little bit more on defense last year. I could see him transitioning a little bit more into offense depending on what the team needs. Where do you plug into all this? I know we were talking in the pre-record that obviously with the retirement of Matt Smith, the number 3 all-time leading goal scorer, and his sort of high efficiency, high goal scoring, almost mid-range contributor role, that seems to be the most natural slot for you to fill. But are there other sorts of schemes or things that you've talked about with Tuba or the Atlanta staff or players that you're willing to adopt? Is there the potential for more defense? I remember last year before the season started, you had been taking a number of D-line reps with the AlleyCats in practices in the off season. What is your approach heading into this new season with the Hustle?
Yeah, I'm just like, I know a lot of people are going to look directly at Matt Smith retiring, Cam Brock's coming in, Cam's just going to like fill Matt Smith's role. I bet a lot of people are making that connection. I think it's an easy connection to make. It doesn't take a whole lot of imagination to get from point A to point B in that equation.
That's why I said it. Little imagination, just A to B, baby.
I think I totally understand that. And I totally see where people are coming with that comparison. Matt Smith and I both have obviously a nose for the end zone and an ability to get open there. I think the way we go about it is different. I think we both are very good with our timing and our like awareness of space and how to use it. But I think the way that we attack that space is a little different. He is one of the quickest players I've ever seen in person, just getting in and out of his cuts. Like his top speed is certainly solid, but for me, it's always been the way he's able to create separation with his, first couple of steps that's set him apart from other players. I'm certainly capable of that, but like for me, it's so much more. I think about getting people on their heels and taking advantage of their positioning and what their positioning is telling me about where it's going to be easier for me to attack and where I'm going to be able to like find leverage and take advantage of my opponent. And I think I'm a little bit like Matt Smith can certainly get up, but I've obviously got several inches on him. Like I'm a little bit more able to go up in the air against some bigger defenders. I certainly love to like attack the field like sideline to sideline. And I think the thing that I really do that I think is different than Matt, probably the biggest thing is just the way that I just kind of am in a constant motion. I pride myself on being in better shape than the person guarding me and on wearing them down over the course of a game, even though I'm usually being approached by multiple defenders. Like my goal is to have any defender guarding me. I don't care if it's 1, 2, or 3 different people throughout the course of the game. I want all of them to be more exhausted than I am when the game's over. And I think my ability to kind of be stronger as the game goes on and be a presence in the fourth quarter and on longer grindy points when other people don't want to run and I'm willing to fight through that and find ways to keep going. I think that's where I make a lot of hay. So I don't know, like if they use me on offense, which I think is, even talking with Tuba, like obviously that's the reason they're bringing me in. Like I have a history of playing offense in this league, but I'm there to do whatever they need me to do. So if we get to training camp and I'm really fitting in with a certain defensive unit and they think that that's a great fit for me and where I'm going to be the most effective, then that's where I'm going to play and I'll be happy to do so. I think it's just up to the coaching staff, up to the other players in the team, captains. Like the one thing I'm definitely not doing is going into going into this team assuming that like I have a role carved out for me already. Like in my mind, like I am the rookie, I'm the new guy, and nothing is given. It should be earned. I don't care what my resume says. I don't care what I've done in the past. Like I have done nothing for the Atlanta Hustle yet, other than maybe right now, bringing some media attention to them. But outside of that, I have not done anything for them. So as far as I'm concerned, on February 22nd, which I believe, if memory serves, that's the date of our first mini camp practice. That's when I start trying to, carve a spot out for myself on the roster and putting myself in the top 20 and, figuring out where I'm going to slot in and who I'm going to, work well with and all of those things. So being a good teammate is, priority number one right now. And that comes with working hard right now, making sure I show up in shape and ready to go. And that when we're there, I'm giving my full attention and full effort to everything that we're doing so that I can get better and so the team can get better.
I like this whole Cam the Ronin sort of vibe you've got going on right now. Just your humble 13th year veteran who has more goals than if you added up the career totals of everyone on Atlanta's roster currently. I'm pretty sure. But to your point, I think one of the things you were mentioning that plugs in immediately for this Atlanta offense, maybe not in a Matt Smith specific role, but another category that the Hustle led the league in last year was red zone conversion rate. And you mentioned your ability to get into horizontal space and make that one of your most effective zones on the field. That is the bread and butter for a lot of this Atlanta offense. They love to get into scoring range, get into that red zone, and let Brett Holzmeyer, let Austin Draco Taylor really work sideline to sideline. I can see a lot of 1-2 combos with you kind of releasing off of maybe a primary Holzmeyer look just outside the end zone. He's got so much better in the past few years at developing various release angles. He's got that nice little scuba over the top. There's going to be a lot of opportunities, I think, for you to fill up some more scoring totals, even if you say it might not be the 30, 40, 50 goals that you're used to scoring in this league. I can't imagine you're going to stay out of the end zone very long in this Hustle offense.
I'm just excited. I mean, I'm really excited. I think, we talked about this on some of the AlleyCats teams I've played on where we really had gotten to a point, I think in 2019, I think you could even make an argument like in 2023, where it was kind of like, if you're playing defense against us, pick your poison. Like, who are you going to try to take away? Who's getting your worst defender that's on the field? And, can that person just go out there and kind of take advantage of that matchup? There was like the line that sticks out to me, I think from KPS, where he talked about how they put their worst defender on Levi Jacobs, and they were just like, oh, Levi, well, yeah, we won't worry about Levi. And he totaled like 10 scores that game and just like completely was a thorn in their side. But it was like, well, if we take somebody off, if we want to put somebody on Levi, we have to take somebody off of Keegan or off of Rick or off of Cam, and we don't really want to do that. So they just, kept running it back, and it turned out to be advantageous for us. And then I look at this Hustle team, I feel a similar way where, like, who do you want to put your person on? Like, if I'm out there with Jeremy Langdon and I'm out there with Brett Holzmeyer and Hayden Austin Abbott, Draco and Christian Olsen and, whoever is on that line, I'm just like, am I going to end up with the fourth worst cutter defender? This sounds incredible. Like, I'm used to, number one, number two, pretty much everywhere I go. And teams can still certainly decide to do that, but there's this really big dude who's been nearly winning MVPs for a few seasons now that, he might be able to feast on a lesser defender, or a Jeremy Langdon who really had, in my opinion, his best season of his career last year. When you think about not just the stats themselves, but coming on a team that was, legitimately a title contender, a guy in Draco who has been one of the premier deep throwers in the league. You could argue the premier deep thrower in the league for years. I mean, it's just an offense that feels like it can attack you in so many different ways. And one thing we've lacked in Indy over the last several years was just like a real consistent deep game. And we haven't really had that for a while. And Atlanta certainly does not lack in the deep game. I mean, it's I'm going to be able to kind of, I feel like, turn the clock back to the, the early Cats years where it was a lot of me being able to streak deep and, know that a throw really could go up on any given moment. And it's been a while since I've had that. So I'm excited for that too, because I know they don't have Bobby Lay, who clearly is, a fantastic deep thrower and really can, spread the field with his throwing. But I still think there's plenty of horses left that can really get that disc and sling it. So I'm excited. I'm excited for a new challenge, playing against new teams. Like, I've never played against Carolina before. I've never played against Austin before. The opportunity to play against LA and San Diego potentially. There's I get a bunch of new matchups too. Like, literally. I'm not releasing any scheduling stuff right now. I know that's all still getting finalized, and we'll do a whole schedule release show eventually. But some fun matchups that are potentially on the on the docket for the hustle that I'm excited for. But that division has been I've avoided everyone in that division except for the hustle themselves. So I'm excited to face some new challenges, play in some new places, and grind through a season with some new teammates.
Well, I'm sure you'll get a pretty raucous introduction to the South, particularly in the first matchup of Hustle versus Flyers, which is sort of the premier rivalry of that division, if not one of the premier rivalries we have in this entire league. And it sounds like you might not be the only big-time goal scorer to be suiting up with the Hustle for the first time in 2025. Don't have full confirmation on the rumors just yet, but there's going to be more additions coming for Atlanta in the future. It sounds like joining you and some cavalry coming for a Hustle team that is still looking for its first championship weekend appearance in franchise history. And with that, I'll segue into a preview for our next episode of Swing Pass, which will be announcing and going through the 2025 championship weekend location. Can't wait to talk about that with you in the next episode of Swing Pass. That'll do it for this breaking news special edition of our show. Cam and I will be back with you very shortly, but for now, bye and see you next time